Hi, I'm Alana Hippensteel from Pharmacy Times. Today I'm speaking with Peter Koshland, the CEO of Koshland Farm and a practicing pharmacist. Koshland Farm is a compounding pharmacy based in San Francisco that works in the ketamine therapy space. And Peter is here to discuss further the role of the pharmacist in ketamine therapy currently. Are there any special regulatory compliance steps that compounding pharmacies need to take for ketamine and other drugs in the psychedelic medicine space that have been FDA approved?
Not necessarily. I mean, it is a controlled substance. So all of the regulatory needs around a controlled substance apply to ketamine. It's a C3. So, so things like we're in California, we have a cure system, doctors in California are required to check their patients for cures. Pharmacists are not required, but we think we should do that as well. So we actually check cures on every prescription that comes through as well, just to be a backstop to make sure there's no diversion or weird dispensing things around that patient. So it's really just a matter of, complying with all the controlled substance dispensing type regulations that are already in place. I will say, because this therapy is a little bit outside the mainstream, and because we're in the aftermath of the opiate epidemic, and there's just a lot of concern about just general diversion and drug seeking behavior, we're extremely cautious about this kind of thing. We really want to make sure every I is dotted and T is crossed with every prescription that goes out the door, so that there's nothing's going into the wrong hands, it's not going out to the community, et cetera. So we spend a little bit extra time, I think, on this, just because we know there's a bit of a microscope on it. And we want to really preserve this therapy for the people who really need it, because we're seeing such amazing outcomes with this therapy. So I think in our community here in the Bay Area, there's a real sense that we need to be really, really responsible about it so we can protect it and preserve it.
Right, absolutely. Do you see the process for ketamine therapy, such as the sublingual administration, do you see the process being similar in terms of the compounding pharmacy's role in the administration of other psychedelic drugs like psilocybin, if it also becomes FDA approved?
That'll be really interesting to see what happens with that. I mean, I don't know a lot about the pharmacokinetics or pharmacodynamics of psilocybin, and I think it'll be interesting to see. It'll be very interesting if it's FDA approved. I think there's a lot of hope in the psychiatric community that it will be, so that they have another tool in their toolbox, because ketamine works in a certain way, but psilocybin certainly works in a very different way and would be more appropriate in different patients. Right now, I think they feel like their only option right now is ketamine, so they're applying it as best they can, but it's not always the best option, I think, for certain patients. Anyway, we'll see if we have a role. I mean, some of it will depend on, does it absorb sublingually? What's its first pass metabolism? Are there going to be commercially available options? I mean, as compounders, we can't copy a commercially available product. That's not appropriate. We're really here to just augment what's already commercially available if there's a patient need for that augmentation. So yeah, I think it's very exciting that could be coming our way, and I guess we'll just see what the future holds and see if there's a role for us.
Right. Yeah. With research surging in the field of psychedelic medicine, are there any advances you've been watching that you think may impact the work of compounding pharmacies in the years to come?
Yeah, I just think the general acceptance of psychedelic medicine, and I think ketamine's been a great proof point. And ketamine I don't think considered as traditional psychedelic, but it does create a psychedelic response in the patient. I mean, it's really an anesthetic. It's been used in emergency rooms since the 70s, and it still is quite widely used. But the success we've had, I think the general public acceptance of allowing some of these options to be in the hands of qualified practitioners who are going to use them responsibly, I think is very exciting, because there's a lot of need for new options for psychiatric care, for treatments of PTSD, other types of conditions, in depression, et cetera. So I think we're just keeping tabs on it. I mean, we'll see. I think there's a lot of hope and optimism, but we haven't seen that real change yet. So I think we're just going to have to see, will these drugs become rescheduled so that we can actually access them? What will be our ability to source the raw materials? Will it become a commercially available product, or is this something that will come through a compounding pharmacy? I think those are open questions still.
Right. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just to encourage people to just explore this therapy. And in my career, every once in a while, you get the privilege of being able to be involved with therapy that really transforms people's lives in really dramatic ways. And this one to me is probably at the top of the list of my entire pharmacy career. And just seeing patients, I think I had gotten so used to the antidepressants working okay for people, maybe helping them maintain their, enough of a mood or to function, but never just the dramatic kind of resolution of something as devastating as major depression. And we've seen that in patients, and it's quite inspiring. So I'm just very hopeful that we can continue to safely administer this and make it available for the patients who can really benefit from it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, Peter.
All right. Thank you.